You're coming into season 3 of The Way Home, and this is already established, well-oiled machine. Everybody's been around for a while. Of course, you've had people pop in and out, but what was your first initial feelings when walking to your first day on set?
Um, Definitely I was nervous,
Mm-hmm.
but I honestly, the moment I stepped on set, Ago, who is the first AD,
Mm-hmm.
just had this big smile and was like, "Welcome to the way home."
That's
And all
awesome.
of a sudden, I just felt at home. Like I don't know how to say it any other way. And I do remember, I think texting my mom being like, "Oh man, like this is a really good set. This is going to be
Mm,
a really great experience." Because I have had other experiences where I don't know. It didn't feel good, but
Mm-hmm.
but it's a job, so you have to do it.
right.
So I think, and honestly, like it kind of doing a job that doesn't feel great, but being forced to do it really does stop you from that track. Like then you're like, I don't think I want to act anymore. Like if this is what it feels like, then I don't want that. So I think stepping into this, I was a little bit worried, but it was amazing. And I think that like the moment I met Sadie, she just yeah, she felt familiar, and she does such a good job at guiding everybody because she's been the lead of the show for the last now 3 seasons.
Right.
Right.
In her life, she's been on the show since she was like 20, I think. So it's like a part of her heart and her soul, and so for her to kind of just, it felt like a big warm hug. So I really wasn't too nervous, although I was very nervous because Evelyn talks a lot. Obviously, so do I. But being able to like memorize somebody else who talks and trying
Yeah.
to figure out their talking pattern, like I was like, ah, and like if you notice, like it's always Evelyn talking and Sadie just Alice just looking at her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it was
and
like,
some of Alice's looks at her crack me up. It's like, wait, what are you saying? But I first of all, we were literally just having a conversation off camera before we started recording this about how, when people first approach it, and even when I describe it to people at first, it's like, oh no, it's really cool, it's time travel and it's kind of supernatural, maybe even a little witchcraft and everything. But at its core, at its sole crux of the show, it's family. It's about a family and family relationships and family dynamic. And so to have it be described by you as that on set, that's why I think it translates so well to the audience. There's a connectability there because that is a family portraying this family on camera, and you feel like, at least I do, and people I know that watch it, when I'm watching it, I feel as though I'm a part of the family. I'm sitting around Dell's table and I need to know what's going on, right? and
yeah,
and and the other thing for you that I think was just because, like you said, and Logan, I'm glad you brought it up because sometimes walking into a well-oiled machine that's been there for 3, 4, 5 years or whatever, you're kind of like, oh, now I got to figure out how I fit into this. But with Evelyn, we saw maybe briefly once when she's threatened to, charge Elliot and Kat, right? And
yeah.
and it was brief. So you get to create Evelyn, unlike the other characters who had to follow along because we had already seen the adult versions of them and a lot of the adult versions of them. And we're like, oh, okay, we know who these people are. But Evelyn, we saw for a brief second. So we really don't know who Evelyn really was as an adult. So you got to play with that a little bit. And I'm thinking, how awesome is that? Because if we do see adult Evelyn again prior to, well, spoilers for anybody, but her death, the actress will have to mimic you, which is it real, right? Talk about that and what kind of process
It's
that
pretty
was.
cool. Honestly, I would say that what also kind of helped too is that because Evelyn was talked about and the Goodwins are talked about so much, then I didn't feel so much like a stranger. It's
Mm,
very strange
yeah,
because her legacy already exists, and because also like the fans are following the show. It it wasn't as like a strange to join. If anything, everybody was like, "Thank God we found somebody that was exactly what needed to be Evelyn." And so it was like people just kind of took me in, and I was like,
yeah.
"Okay, cool." But to your point, yeah, I didn't go off of really anything besides like probably like a version of myself that's just like a little bit lighter and thinking about what I would be like if I was in the 70s, and being able to really play around. And I did say, like, I remember when we sat down the first time I met Julie and Jordan, we went out to lunch before. We had even met on set, and
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh my God, I have been freaking out because I've just been watching a whole bunch of interviews of Andy McDowell and Jefferson, and I need to like get down, and I'm just so scared." And I remember sitting there being like, "Thank God I don't have to like copy anybody." because that would be terrifying. It would be
Yeah.
terrifying to have to like mimic Andy McDowell, who is such a big name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, thank God,
You guys nail it though.
They
They are
do.
terrifying.
Yeah.
How literally eerie how good they are at mimicking them. Like like you said with Andy, those mannerisms and those little things that she does with her eyes and everything. So to watch Julia do it, it's like,
Oh, I have
whoa.
like goosebumps. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's just it's. But the thing I like, and I'm curious on your take on this one, Logan, is the Goodwins, like you said, establish history, right? But they're not, people don't like them, right? Because they've really kind of established that the Goodwins are the bad guys, right? Nah, the Augustines have some issues, but the Goodwins are the bad guys. And nobody likes Cyrus. Everybody. But then here comes young Evelyn, and she's adorable. You're rooting for her, right? It seems like every episode she's getting her heart crushed, and she's just this free spirit that wants to love and be loved, and you know the way you play her, you go, oh, well, that's why she's so damn bitter as an adult, and what kind of goes down because she's being trampled on.
She gets knocked down and she gets back up again, but then she gets knocked down. Like it's even moving in through episode 9, like she continuously goes, okay, I'm at the bottom of the hill. I'm going to work back up to the top of the hill. I'm going to try again and everything's going to be okay. And she's got such a like strong, motivated spirit. But I think even we're all wondering too, and we'll see if we have another season. They kind of talk about a little bit like if there is, continuing to understand why or how Evelyn completely does end up the way that she ends up. Which is pretty crazy. The thing is that I didn't watch The Way Home before I did my first interview. I just read it and was like, oh, it takes place in the 70s. Cool. This is how I'd play her.
Right.
And so then when I was then watching the show after I got a call back, and then later on, once I actually was on set, I was like, oh, shoot, no one likes the Goodwins.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because even inside of Evelyn, like when she's there at the Ouija board and she goes to Colton, like, oh, maybe we can find something out about our founding fathers. Like, she has such a curiosity in understanding what her family lineage is, which is really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of sad that her family lineage is like they're mean people. So that's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It always sucks. That's always the terrifying thing to do, like Ancestry or anything like that. You go back and realize your people suck. Like, you never want that. You never want that. But I'm a big fashion person and I love period pieces. So I was obviously curious, what was that like trying to, figure out and work with the costume designer to try to figure out what the 70s version of you was going to look like? And then were there any pieces of articles of clothing that you would possibly might have wanted to take home?
Yeah. I do remember the very first day when I went in, they already had like a mood board and everything set up. It was very
Nice.
nice. And then we would try on a whole bunch of articles of clothing. Our costume people have been around forever, so I think I tried on something that like Uma Thurman wore at one point.
Oh, cool.
But
Wow.
she's a big Amazon woman, whereas like I'm only like 5'3", so they're like, hey, let's not fit. I was like, damn it, I love this. Anyways, but being able to try on all the clothes and stuff like that was really fun, and then kind of having my little 2 cents of being like, I like this more than the other thing.
Right, exactly.
But I loved it. Like if I could, then I would totally live in the 70s. But my biggest thing is that I'm not huge for wearing skirts, but Evelyn loves to wear her skirts. And
Right.
so at the beginning I was like, oh, is there a way that we can do like a pant thing or stuff like that? And they're like, no, I think that you'll really enjoy the skirts. And now watching it, like, I love the fact that she's so flowy and that, when she walks, her skirts follow her. I think there's a couple scenes where I'm wearing pants, but the skirt idea was like beautiful.
Yeah.
The one article of clothing that I wish that I kept would be the white dress that you get introduced with her the very first time.
Yeah.
Not the one I heard the pond, but the one where, I don't know, it's got like all those layers and it's very embroidered and stuff. Like it's gorgeous. It really gives fairy vibes. But I was not able to keep anything.